This season has brought a couple of changes to some exotics, and in this video I wanted to cover one for the Warlock that really has not been touched in a long time, and it's the Vesper of Radius. So this is what the exotic looks like. Honestly, I really don't like the look of it that much, but it does come with an ornament, which I do like a lot, and then we add a shader to it. Looks fantastic. But the main thing is the perk, right? Planetary Torrent. Rifts periodically release arc shockwaves. Final blows with these shockwaves create an arc explosion. And while an arc subclass is equipped, the shockwaves and subsequent explosions blind nearby targets. Rift energy recharges faster when you are surrounded by targets. And obviously we want to take advantage of certain seasonal artifact perks this time around. So what I would recommend first up is authorized mods arc and melee. Again, reducing those armor energy costs down to 1 for those respective mods. You know, any arc weapons that we're going to be using, want to take advantage of that, and also some melee mods. Again, those are going to be reduced to 1, which means we can put on other mods that cost more, which is going to allow us to min-max our armor. Now, there are a lot of arc perks on the seasonal artifact this time around, but the 3 I would recommend is Thunderous Retort first up. Grants bonus arc super damage if cast while critically wounded or while amplified, and lasts until the end of the super activation. I'd also recommend Electric Armor. Gain damage resistance while you're amplified, which we're going to get amplified very easily and constantly, so we're pretty much going to have infinite damage resistance with this, which is going to be really good. Third, I would recommend Shock and Awe. Arc Final Blows while you're amplified, summon a burst of lightning that damages and jolts targets. So this can be any arc ability or arc weapon damage. So pretty much causes a free lightning strike. Now, the other 2 that you can look into using, first up is Amped Up. Stay amplified longer while your arc subclass is equipped, which it's not super necessary considering we're going to be amplified a lot of the time anyway. Really easy to get amplified on the Warlock here. And then another one to look into is Lightning Strikes twice. After throwing an arc grenade, gain increased grenade recharge for a short time. Arc Final Blows extend the duration of this benefit. Now, under the Stormcaller arc subclass, for the super, I would recommend Chaos Reach. Since we are going to be getting that bonus super damage when we are amplified, having a super that's going to give us a lot of damage, especially on tougher enemies, it's going to be really good. Under our abilities, I'm going to go with the Healing Rift for our class ability. I like Burst Glide for movement, but you can use what you like. For the melee, I do like Ball Lightning. Again, it fires a projectile and then drops a lightning strike, and while you're amplified, that lightning strike actually happens 3 times. So we definitely like this one. If you do want to do Chain Lightning, you can. Again, it just chain lightnings the targets. When you're amplified, it creates an additional set of chains. So either one works. I personally just like Ball Lightning more. And then for the grenade, we're going with the Pulse Grenade. Now, under our aspects here, first up, we're going with Electrostatic Mine. Defeating targets with arc abilities or defeating jolted or blinded targets creates an Ionic Trace, and then collecting an Ionic Trace makes you amplified. So creating one is really easy. Just get an arc ability kill or a arc debuff kill, and that's going to drop an Ionic Trace. That's going to track directly toward us, which is really cool, and that's how we're going to become amplified. So it's going to be really easy to become amplified and stay amplified. Plus, Ionic Traces also give us ability energy, so we're going to get those abilities back even faster. Now, the second one we want to take advantage of is Arc Soul. Cast your Rift to create an Arc Soul that fires at targets in front of you. Allies can pass through the Rift to get an Arc Soul. Your Rift charges faster when allies are near, and while you are amplified, your Arc Souls are supercharged and gain an increased fire rate. What's really cool is that Arc Soul can actually take advantage of Shock and Awe. So when your Arc Soul is just shooting a target and Shock and Awe procs, it's just like a mini lightning storm that happens on that enemy. So this is going to be really good. Now, for the fragments, we're going to be using, first up here, Spark of Resistance. While surrounded by combatants, you are more resistant to incoming damage, plus 10 to strength. Again, this is a close quarters build. We're going to be near enemies a lot, and having that increased damage resistance is just going to be helpful to us in general. Next up, Spark of Amplitude. Rapidly defeating targets while you're amplified creates an orb of power. Since getting amplified is very easy and we're going to be amplified a lot of the time, creating orbs of power, whether it's for armor charges or a team or whatever, is going to be just a benefit in general. Next up, Spark of Magnitude. Your lingering arc grenades have an extended duration, which means our pulse grenade is going to last longer. And then lastly here, I have Spark of Feedback. Taking melee damage briefly increases your outgoing melee damage, plus 10 to resilience. My thought process with this is, like I mentioned with Spark of Resistance, this is a close quarters build. And again, if we're going to get meleeed, having the increased melee damage is just going to be a benefit to us. Next, let's talk about what armor mods that I'm using. So first up here, I have Arc Siphon. Rapid Arc Weapon Final Blows create an Orb of Power. If you did want to substitute this for Harmonic Siphon, it essentially does the same thing. Next up, we have Dynamo. Reduces super cooldown when using your class ability near targets. Again, we're going to be using the Rift near targets. It's a close quarters build, and being able to get that increased super energy is going to be good for us. Then lastly, we have Font of Wisdom. You gain a bonus to intellect while you have any armor charge. Armor charges now decay over time. Essentially, if you collect an orb of power, you will gain an armor charge Base wise, you get 3 armor charges, and with these blue mods, each one will last 10 seconds. So at max, we can have 30 seconds of this bonus to our intellect. Having one of these mods on gives us a plus 30 to intellect. If we have 2, it's 50. If we have 3, it is 60. So since we have 1, my intellect's 52. It'll bump it up to 82 as long as I have an armor charge. On the gauntlets here, I'm using Bolstering Detonation. Gain class ability energy when you cause damage with a grenade. Next up, Impact Induction. Causing damage with a melee attack reduces your grenade cooldown. And then lastly, Font of Focus. You gain a bonus to Discipline while you have any armor charge. Your armor charge now decays over time. Again, very similar to Font of Wisdom on the helmet, but this is for the grenade. And since my Discipline is 74, whenever I have an armor charge, that'll now make it 104, which means I have the max amount of discipline cooldown I can have for the grenade. On the chest piece, since this is a close quarters build, I would recommend melee damage resistance, again reducing the incoming damage from combatants that are in point blank range. And then also I have 2 arc reserve mods giving me more arc weapon ammo. Now going over the boots here, first up I have arc weapon surge. Your arc weapons gain a small bonus to damage while you have any armor charge. Our armor charge now decays over time. Again, very similar to the stat boosting mods. This just gives a boost to my arc weapon damage. Next up here, I have Orbs of Restoration. Picking up an Orb of Power grants a small amount of energy to your ability with the least energy. Again, you could go Recuperation if you needed the health benefits. Again, replenishes health each time you pick up an Orb of Power. But since we're going to be using our Rift and getting it back very quickly, and we already have good survivability with other things, I feel like Orbs of Restoration is a good pickup. And then lastly, this is a new mod that came with the season called Elemental Charge. Collecting a Fire Sprite, Ionic Trace, Stasis Shard, Void Reach, or destroying a Strand Tangle has an escalating chance to give you an armor charge. Then lastly on the class item, I'm using Reaper. After using your class ability, your next weapon Final Blow spawns an Orb of Power. Then we're also using Bomber, reduces grenade cooldown when using your class ability. And then lastly, another new mod with Season of the Deep, Powerful Attraction. Automatically collects nearby orbs of power when you activate your class ability. So when we cast that Rift, any of those orbs near us will automatically be collected, giving us armor charges and other benefits. Now for stats to focus on, obviously, we talk about every video. Try to have tier 10 100 resilience. It's going to give you a 30% damage reduction. Again, survivability with this build is going to be key since we are close quarters with this one. Now, I know people would say recovery because the recovery stat is actually tied to how fast you can get that healing rift back. But with the exotic, anytime we're near combatants, it's going to give us rift energy anyway. So I don't find it very necessary to have higher recovery. So I would recommend focusing on discipline. Again, that's tied to the grenade stat, intellect, which is tied to your super cooldown, and then strength, which is tied to your melee. Now for your weapon options, honestly, there isn't any specific weapon that you need to be using for this build. But again, we do want to take advantage of arc weapons for arc weapon surge and arc reserves. So here are a few. Weapons that could come with the perk Volt Shot. Again, reloading this weapon after defeating a target overcharges this weapon for a short period of time, causing it to jolt on its next hit. Also, finding weapons with the new trait perk called Collective Action. Again, collecting elemental pickups or throwing a Strand Tangle grants a stacking period of increased damage. So when we collect that Ionic Trace, now this weapon is going to get bonus damage. Obviously, there are a lot of arc heavy weapons. You know, I have this Terminus Horizon here that comes with triple tap and target lock. Also, the Hothead Adept, again with explosive light, auto-loading holster. Again, there are multiple arc heavy weapons, but for exotics, I would recommend Delicate Tomb. This weapon is fantastic, pretty much. Trader's Vessel is intrinsic trait. Fires a wide horizontal spread when shot from the hip. Final blows with the weapon have a chance to generate ionic traces, and powerful foes and opposing guardians always generate ionic traces. Also has Fluted Barrel, Liquid Coils, and Short Action Stock. But then we have Tempest Cascade. Collecting an Ionic Trace overcharges this weapon's next shot, jolting targets on hit. So it's basically free crowd control. Then also, with its catalyst, collecting an Ionic Trace partially reloads the magazine from reserves. And obviously we have the seasonal exotic, the Centrifuge this time around, which its intrinsic trait. Overcharge Capacitor. Sprinting, sliding, and firing this weapon builds up a temporary electrostatic charge, increasing range and reload speed. Final blows with high charge cause targets to explode, and maximum charge explosions blind targets. So again, we have another way to apply another arc debuff. Fantastic, right? Also comes with corkscrew rifling, a pen and mag, and then hand laid stock. And then its trait perk, Regenerative Motion. Sprinting gradually reloads the weapon. And then if you don't know what its catalyst does, while you're amplified, it actually causes this overcharge capacitor perk to kick in. So essentially, as long as you're amplified, you can basically cause explosions that blind targets constantly. Now, if you got through all that and you're still a little confused about how this build works, essentially you're going to have your Rift all the time and it's going to give you a lot of benefits. So let's just say we're about to enter an engagement, we slide in, there's a bunch of enemies around us, we pop our Rift. What's going to happen? So first up, we're going to have that Arc Shockwave, which if the enemies are waking up, is going to cause an explosion. and since we are in the arc subclass, it's going to blind any nearby targets that are caught in the vicinity of that. And if any other targets decide to come near us, it's also going to recharge that rift even faster. Now note that on the class item, Reaper is going to kick in, so once we cast that rift and then shoot a target, it's going to create a free orb of power, which is going to be fantastic. If we got any kills with any of our abilities, you know, the arc soul that we get from just popping the rift, our melee or our grenade or whatever, and that's going to create an ionic trace, when we collect that, guess what? Now we're amplified. This is where a lot of the stuff kicks in. Obviously, our arc soul is now supercharged, so now it gains that increased fire rate. Again, with any of our arc fragments here, any of those targets that are near us, we get, you know, more damage resistance on top of the healing from the healing rift. Again, we're amplified, so as long as we just defeat any targets around us, it's going to create another orb of power. If we decide to use our grenade, it's going to last longer, and if a target is close to us and melees us, now our ball lightning melee is going to have even more damage, on top of the seasonal artifact perks, allowing our super to have even more damage while we're amplified. We gain more damage resistance while we're amplified, and any of those arc final blows, whether it's from our weapons or our abilities, has the chance to summon a burst of lightning that just jolts down on target. So it's another way to crowd control and cause more arc debuffs. And that doesn't even cover the benefits with the armor mods. Again, when we pop that rift, Dynamo's kicking in, so we get bonus super energy. Again, causing damage with our grenade and melee is going to reduce our grenade and our class ability, so we can get that rift back even faster. Again, collecting any orbs of power allows orbs of restoration to kick in, giving us even more ability energy, and also bomber on the class item, giving us grenade energy whenever we pop that rift. On top of being able to get the bonuses from the armor charges, which we can get from collecting orbs of power from, you know, Spark of Amplitude, Arc Siphon on the helmet, you know, Reaper on the class item, and then also have the chance to get it from Ionic Traces from Elemental Charge, which it's a very high chance, and we're also going to be creating a lot of Ionic Traces. Now, having 3 armor charges is going to be very easy, and once we have that, Font of Wisdom, Font of Focus, and Arc Weapon Surge kicking in, giving us a cooldown to our super, our grenade, and then also Arc Weapon Surge giving us that bonus to arc weapon damage, which in general is just going to be fantastic. But that, ladies and gentlemen, is my Vesper of Radius Arc Warlock build. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. Again, I'm actually going to pin the build for this at the top of the comments. There's going to be a dim link, so if you want to copy everything that I'm using, down to the subclass, armor mods, even the drip if you'd like, you can copy all that and test it out for yourself and let me know what you guys think. Again, there's a million ways to build craft in this game. There's no end-all be-all way, honestly. So if you find something that you like better, you know, something that you think could benefit this build, again, let me know in the comments. I'm willing to hear you out. In any event, if you like what you saw, be sure to drop a like on the video, subscribe to the channel, and then turn that bell next to notifications so you don't miss out on another build video here on the channel. If you want to tune in any live streams, I actually stream live here on YouTube, and if you want to be updated when I am going live, other YouTube videos, and basically any of my other content, be sure to follow me on Twitter at ItsDaveTV. Again, like I said, I give updates there. And then also be sure to join my Discord. Again, we are talking about Destiny 2, a variety of other games, plus PC tech, anime, and more. Lastly, if you want to look into supporting the channel, you can always become a member. If you don't know what a membership is, it's essentially like a Twitch subscription. Again, it's going to give you access to the exclusive emotes, monthly badges, and other cool stuff here on the channel. Again, it's just another way to support me so I can continue making this content for you guys. If you want more details, all you have to do is press the join button, next subscribe, and that'll give you a rundown with all the details you need. All right, ladies and gentlemen, it's been your boy. We'll catch you in the next one. Cheers.